Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our coach development webinar for this week. Just a couple of reminders before we start. If everyone could put yourselves on mute, that'd be great. We just want to keep the feedback to a minimum during the presentation. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat, and then Ryan will address them during the presentation throughout. Before we begin, I'd like to let all you know about the upcoming regional AGMs that will take place virtually in October. Attending and voting at your regional AGM is your opportunity to have a formal say in how Ontario volleyball operates and to make an impact on policy decisions. Your regional AGM is also your opportunity to be appointed as a delegate for the special general meeting on Sunday, November 7th, and to be eligible to vote on the proposed bylaw revisions. The revisions will help OVA mitigate organizational risks and meet the requirements of not-for-profit governance regulations. You can find all the info about your regional AGM and the bylaw revisions on our website, and I'll just put that link into the chat. So tonight we have Ryan Ratushniak. He's going to be talking to us about developing reading abilities and intentional training. He is currently the head coach of the women's volleyball team at Queen's University. And some of his other accolades include the assistant coach for the men and women's national team. He was assistant coach of the University of Manitoba men's team and also played there for 5 years. And before that, he was the manager of athletics and recreation services at Red River College. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan, and then he can start his presentation for us.
Great, thanks, Kelvin. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to turn your video on if you're comfortable, or like Kelvin said, you can put some questions in the chat, or there's, I think there's just under 20 people on right now, so not too many. So if you want to kind of raise a hand or something like that too, that's an option. I'm going to be talking about reading abilities mainly today, and how I see it, and what I think about reading and read blocking and defense in the game. Obviously, there's lots of ways to describe reading and do things in volleyball. So I always preface every presentation of like, this is what I'm focused on, but that's a great thing about volleyball. There's more than one way to do things and do things well in our sport. So I'm just going to share my screen and pull up my presentation. So for me, when I talk about reading, it means eye work and what we are watching and when we're playing volleyball, and also how does what we see impact the decisions that we make in the game. So that's how I see reading. Reading isn't necessarily, to me, anticipating, although that could be, I guess, part of it, but it's really about trying to train yourself as an athlete, and for us as coaches, trying to train our athletes to watch the right things at the right time, and then make decisions and be ready to react as blockers and defenders to what we're seeing out there. So to go into that a little bit further, and this might not be new to anyone here, or maybe it is a little bit new, but I'm just going to go into how I see eye sequencing and eye work in blocking a little bit. So this is what we talk about when we work on our blocking eye sequencing with our team. It really starts, before the ball is set, and we talk about receiver, ball hitter, setter, ball hitter. So some of you might have heard or may use ball setter, ball hitter, but we add a little bit more to that because for one thing, the reason why we put receiver in here is as you see in this first point I made, like we want to be gathering information right away to help us make a read. So as soon as that ball crosses the net, if we're serving or if we're putting a free ball over or attacking, whatever it is, we want to start reading the situation on the other side. That's going to give us information, right? And that could impact this third point here, the hitter, like who's available for attacking. So what I mean by that is if we serve a seam and the player is in a seam, a left side, for example, are they available for a fast shoot? Okay, maybe they hit the floor to pass the ball, so maybe they're not available at all. So we're starting to gather information as blockers, and that could help us form our block right away off the reception. Another thing we're seeing a lot in the international volleyball, especially probably even a little bit more so in the men's game than in the women's game, is the short kind of cut serve or short serve to the middle of the court, trying to take away the pipe attack, right? So that's what we mean by, we're gathering information. If there's confusion or a passer in the middle of the court, short, that maybe takes away the pipe attack, and the blockers can focus, their energy and anticipate and read to be ready to go somewhere else. So after we're gathering information from the receiver, okay, we want to read that pass, right? We want to read the ball. And first off, is it on, off, or over, right? So obviously if the ball's over the net, we can hit it as a blocker. We can take a step back and pass it. Is it off? So is the middle going to be an option for the other team? Or if it's on, okay, our setters in system on the other side, they're running offense. So we have to start reading from there. Then before the ball gets set, one of the things we talk about a lot with our team is where's the middle going? Identifying that middle, where are they going? Are they coming into our zone? We use a fairly good bunch block system, or what we call a loose bunch, where our wing blockers are helping on the middle attack. So we're trying to identify, is that middle coming in our zone, or can we take a little bit of a hitch step and get ready to release on the outside attacker a bit more? And what's your primary hitter doing is important as well. Could they be running an inside play if they're an outside hitter? So identifying that, are they available, like we talked about? And then the setter, right? So when we say we're watching the setter, what we try and get our blockers to watch is the setter's hands, because that's where the ball is going to come from. So we try and be disciplined when the ball is being set. We want to be stopped, watching the setter's hands, and then get ready to react to where the ball's set from there. This next point of watching the ball is something that I've really changed as a coach and as a team, our philosophy, our mentality on this a bit. I've coached now for probably just over 20 years, and we're always kind of trained to, as soon as we know where the ball's going, watch the hitter. Watch the hitter, right? So after the ball's set, this ball hitter really becomes like, trying to pick up the hitter. What we've changed and what we're emphasizing more is watching that set longer, if it's set to, say, left side or right side. And reason being, there's a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons is often what happens is when it's a faster set and there's more faster, tempo balls to the outside now, if we watch the hitter, we might not get great information from them on their approach. They could be a little bit outside the court, but the set could be inside, right? And if we're watching the hitter, we're trying to move to them, but the ball's inside and they come flying past you as a blocker to cut that ball off and hit the ball cross court. So for that reason, what we're trying to do is watch the ball longer after the set's made. And what I put in here is that we're trying to watch it at least to its apex or the top of its flight pattern before we move our eyes to the hitter. And if anything, what we've been emphasizing in our gym, and we're not doing it very well, you'll see, I'll show some video in a few minutes, is we're trying to emphasize even watching that ball longer and being in the right zone and not really even too concerned about what the hitter is doing until the moment of contact. So those are some of the main things that we talk about and how we describe read blocking. As you can see, there's a lot to watch. And it's a really hard skill, and it's a really hard when the other team is in system and when the setter is setting, which is why it's so important to take the other team out of system. Any questions about that in the chat, Kelvin, or anything?
No, we're good.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to move on to defense eye sequencing. So it's very similar. Okay. For our defenders, we're watching the receiver again, gathering information. Is the ball on, off, or over? And then the hitters, where's the middle going? And this is really important for us because in particular, our position 6 will adjust their individual defensive position or IDP based on the middle. If the middle is coming into that 31 gap, our position 6 usually slides over a little bit to get in that seam. And because we run a read system, we typically don't front middle attack and we don't commit, unless we play, a good example from a few years ago would have been a Kelsey Veltman from Western who could, pretty much thump a ball on the 3-meter line. So we would adjust our game plan a little bit on that, and we would probably have our middle front more and also commit to the middle more. But I would say the majority of middle attacks we're trying to help on. We're trying to funnel, and we're trying to defend that with our backcourt defenders. So it's really important for us to know where the middle is going on defense as well. And then watching the setter. Where's the set coming from? Watching the setter's hands. And if they're front court, if we're watching the hands, we should be ready for the setter dump because that's, the ball is going to come from the setter's hands. So if there is a setter dump, we should be ready for that and ready to react, especially in positions 5 and 1, where we typically pick up those type of plays. We have to follow the ball from there. But then the next point on defense is our blockers, right? We're picking up what our blockers are doing. So is there a seam? If it's a ball set to the outside, is there no seam? So are we kind of filling in the seam, or are we digging around the middle? So that's an important part of reading when we're playing defense. And then picking up the hitter, right? And being ready for, in our position, a hard driven ball, maybe an off speed tip shot. And for us, the most important thing that we're emphasizing on defense is being stopped on contact. So even if we're not in the right position, we want to be stopped. We want to be ready to move and react to whatever's coming at us from the attack. We're trying to really simplify defense this year with our team and focus on being stopped on contact and and ready to react to the ball from there. So when we're working on reading, I'll go through some video in a minute, but sometimes in a practice, and so this was actually the video is from a practice we did today. We like to maybe progress a little bit in the situation. So I'll go through the first activity where it's a controlled high ball. So basically the blockers know where the ball's going. It's an out of system ball, and it makes it easier to watch and use our eyes and react to the ball, and also for our defense to try and read in the seams and read around the block. Then from there, we like to sometimes progress into 2 options. So maybe it'll be a right side and left side shoot, which we'll show today. Maybe those 2 options are a middle and a left side attack, or middle and right side attack, or middle and a pipe or a back row attack. But we like to progress into like creating a couple options. So now we have to identify which hitters are coming at us and then read the setter and be able to react from there. And then you'll see in the third and fourth activity, we added a middle attack and with the setter in the back court or setter in the front court. And just to add more to for our blockers to read as we progress and get into more of a normal situation or an in-system situation when the middle option is there. So I'm just going to pull up my video and so I can show some of those activities and what we are doing.
Ryan, we just have a couple of questions come in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So the first one was, what determines whether you run a read or commit block system?
Yeah, good question. There's a couple things. I think one is it's something that as a coach you determine like what you prefer. So in general, what do you think makes the most sense to you as a coach for the team that you have and for the way that you want to play volleyball? So I think that's an important question to ask. But then also a lot of it is game plan dependent. So a lot of it might be based on your opponent. Offenses are getting really fast now, and at our level, and then internationally, it's even faster. We had Jen Cross from our women's national team come on a Zoom call and talked about just the speed of the left side, tempo ball. It's almost like a first tempo, and if you don't make a right decision as a middle, you're probably not going to get there sometimes at that level. So you need to make a decision, right? And we have to do that sometimes too, where if we know that the tendencies of a team is in a certain rotation is to set more balls to the left side, and that left side is a efficient attacker, that might be part of our game plan, that our left side is going to help in the middle. We might release our middle a bit and commit to going in that direction. If we have a middle who's running a step play on us and is really efficient, really fast, our middle may make a decision and go there and leave our right side blocker to block their left side one-on-one. So a lot will depend on game plan, what the opponent's strengths are, and then what your strengths are as well. So helping out maybe a smaller blocker, that the opponent might be going after could be a strategy you have as a team. So I think those, I'm not sure if that completely answers your question, but I think that's what we think about when we decide whether we want to read or whether we're going to commit.
Okay, and I think this next question was referring to the 4 activities that you're about to show.
Okay.
Do you do that all in one practice or through a number of practices?
Yeah, so this is actually today's practice, and we did it all in one practice. We did a similar practice yesterday where we did the same activities, but we didn't play out the rally. So for example, what we did was about 6 balls for our blockers to read and to try and block, and defenders to defend. And then those blockers would watch the video replay on the iPad that we use, and they could see what they were doing. They could watch their eyes, what they were doing in the activity, and get some feedback after they go through about 6 blocking sequences. So it's just a little bit dependent on how much time you want to spend on each situation. What I've currently like doing is I like doing what you'll see that we did in practice today. So I like creating a scenario off of the first ball. And you'll see at the start here, the scenario is there's basically a high ball option, and we're going to try and triple block. And then after that, we play out the rally. We play volleyball. we're going to get more out of that, right? Our liberos are going to get more out of that, I think, because there's going to be extended rallies. There's going to be more opportunities to read as a defender. It doesn't look pretty. You'll see from some of these rallies. We have a lot to work on still this year. When I was watching this after practice today, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to be showing this in the webinar tonight, because we got a lot to improve on. But we're playing volleyball, and we can learn a lot by playing volleyball in game situations. I'm a believer in kind of motor learning and playing more and trying to adapt and figure out things while we're playing, as opposed to really controlling the activities and making them easy when we know it's really hard when it's in a game situation. So yeah, those activities we did all in one practice. If everyone could see the screen now. Kelvin, you can see the video. So for example, what we would do is we have setters in the backcourt right now. Our middles are in the middle. We have liberos playing in 5 on both sides. This player is not a libero, but is a little injured right now, so it's playing that position. And then we have our wing blockers and outside hitters all in the outside spots. So what we'll do is a sequence of 3 balls on one side, 3 balls on the other side, where we're setting out a system and blocking, and then everyone will rotate. So new middles will come on, and the wings, outside hitters will just rotate and play a different position, on their side, and we'll go through that. We'll go through that 3 times. So that all of our outside hitters play in position 2, position 6, and position 4. So we really train. I'd say we probably don't have like a true opposite on our team right now, where they're just a big attacker and blocker and maybe not a receiver. So we train all of our outsides to hit from 2, to hit from 4, and also to hit pipe and see ball as well. With our team right now. So in a training situation like this, we'll just rotate through and then we'll go on to the next activity. Does that make sense? Or there's lots of different things you can do for sure in working on this. Like next week, we're probably going to do something similar, but instead of like the 2 options being a right side and a left side shoot, it's probably going to be running maybe separation offense, so like a 51 left side or a 31 right side. Or then we might run overload situations where we'll have 2 options and we'll really overload a blocker. So we'll run like 31 outside, and we'll work on like reading and reacting to those type of situations in place. So I'll just, are there any other questions right now, Kelvin, or?
Yeah, just a couple quick ones. Just regarding the masks, coach was curious. Is that a team decision, coach decision, or a school decision? It seems
university decision right now. I think we may be the only team in Canada practicing with masks on. I'm not too sure about that, but right now it's I think like provincially we're allowed to train once we start warm up without a mask. I know our OUA regulations allow us to take our mask off once we start warming up. Right now at Queen's University, we're indoor practices and we're still wearing masks. We're anticipating that could change. Our outdoor sports are allowed to practice and play without their masks, so I think that could change soon. We're all fully vaccinated. We have to be on campus at Queen's right now. But it's just an abundance of caution. Let's just put it that way.
And how many players do you have on the team?
We have 18 on our roster in total. One player, upper years player who had shoulder surgery in May, who's out for the season, is included in that 18. So This year we basically have 17 players.
Okay. And then another one came in to supplement reading comprehension in matches. How much responsibility, if any, do you give to liberos to inform blockers, defenders between rallies? And is the bench doing anything on timeouts to help out the players on the court?
Yeah, really good question. So often our liberos, we give them the responsibility of communicating about servers. So running our like serve receive formation. We'll also talk about different rotations, and they'll work with our middles. And we also want our middles to, when we game plan, our middles really go through rotational detail, rotational tendencies. And our middles will know, okay, setter in position 6, 35% of the balls are going to the left side here, or whatever it may be. But so they'll work a little bit with the libero on that as well. But we want our middles kind of running our blocking as much as possible. That's the way we approach it. Our liberos are, reminding, our backcourt players a little bit about tendencies and where we want to be on defense, and also running our reception formations. And what was the other part there of that question? Oh, the bench. Yeah, players on the bench often, especially setters, are engaged on, communicating with the setters on the court, and about what is the middle doing when we run this play? What is the how are the blockers reacting? Yeah, there's some communication there as well with we get everyone to watch players in their position, so they're able to help give some communication. A lot of it though too, we want kind of funneled through the coaches too as much as possible, so that there could be sometimes a little bit of overload of information during matches, and we want people to be relaxed and keep things simple. Sometimes hearing too many different things or too many voices might not be the best thing. So we also want to kind of funnel information, sometimes from players to assistant coaches to head coach to players. It all depends on our staff, and I like to have one assistant coach kind of in charge of our offense and one in charge of our block defense during matches. And as a head coach, I'm overseeing everything and stats for the match and plus minus and making decisions and getting information from both coaches.
Awesome. So that's it for now. So we move on.
Okay, great. We'll go through some of these clips. Okay, so here, we're starting to gather information. We're just creating a out of system situation. Ball's hit at the setter. We know this is going to be a high ball, and we're going to triple block. Okay, so our position 1 defender over here is going to try and read. Is there a seam? Is this blocker going to close? This blocker is actually one of our liberos as well. So we'll see how she does. There might be a seam there, but I think she does a pretty good job. So we'll watch here. Okay, after the play, resetting as blockers. Okay, our middle's already loaded here. So I think she's gathered information that this player is not available to hit. What we would probably want to see then too is our other outside hitter also gathering that information and maybe starting to come over here to triple block. Just because right now it doesn't look like there could be a pipe option here, but it looks like the ball is going to be going outside. Okay, just a good example there defensively. Okay, our middle made the right read. Okay, pretty good close, and position 5 gets a dig around the block there. Okay, so in a pretty good position, digging around the middle. You see, this is a good reason why we like to, create a scenario, but then play volleyball. There's already in this first rally, there's been a lot of chaos and some good things happening, some not so good things happening, but yeah, it's good. It's good that we're getting this opportunity. And yeah. Okay, so now we have another situation here. Okay, the blocker decides not to jump, reads a tip. Okay, so now this will be a better angle here to watch the blockers on the other side. So the ball's coming to this side now, and we'll see what the three blockers are doing. Oh, not what we wanted off of the down ball. So as I was saying, everyone was a little confused there because we didn't get what we wanted. So a little bit of chaos. Sometimes we'll put another ball in, but or we'll just play. Okay, so are we watching the setter here? Okay, eyes are pretty good on where the ball is going to come from. Not a great set, so the blockers didn't go. Very good. Triple block, giving feedback to our outside blocker. Started a little bit far away, made a good effort to cover ground. So we probably wanted to bunch a little bit earlier to make this block. And then just finish with the hands pressing a little bit. So from there, that was a situation that we started. We went through a number of rotations of this where we just did high ball blocking, working on using our eyes, offense and defense. But then we got into from there trying to go for. Just go back a little bit here. So now there's two options at the net. So the ball's going to come over, and there's going to be a right side, a left side option, and our blockers are going to be reading and trying to react from there. Okay, so here we should be gathering information, watching the receiver, watching the pass. Okay, and then where are our eyes going? So pretty good here. Okay, our middle is watching. Setter's hands, setter's hands, setter's hands here, along with our defenders. Okay, you'll notice, I think this ball goes to the left side. The thing I talked about where we're watching the ball longer, we're not doing very well. It's a habit that it's something that we do where you'll see our right side blocker, Tia, she gets her eyes going right away to the outside. Okay. And, the block was in a pretty good position. There's a bit of a thumb down shot from the outside hitter there. But in watching this again, and our players are going to be watching this practice a bit tonight and tagging themselves. We would want to kind of point that out and follow the ball a little bit longer. Okay. The way we want our middles reading and doing a pretty good job. Okay. Reading, waiting for the set, trying not to guess. That's what we, for us, reading doesn't mean guessing. Some setters could be really deceptive, right? Some setters might look like they're going left side and then flick the ball back really, really quick. So we want to be stopped when the setter is setting, reading, and then reacting to that. Okay, that was a good read by our middle. Okay, we stayed neutral there as a quick set. Obviously didn't get there, but still made the right decision. Our middle took away some court, and then our defender was able to gather that information at 6 and be in the seam, okay, and be in a good spot. So lots of good opportunities in that rally to reset after the play. We talk a lot about resetting, getting back into a blocking position, into our IDPs on defense. We have a first-year middle who just came off of injury, and this was her first practice back in close to 4 weeks. So doing a pretty good job out there considering the first practice back. Okay, she's watching the setter's hands. Okay, getting ready to move. Yeah, doing a good job. In general, I think about our team, blocking is one of our weaker skills. What we've been focused on so far, the beginning of this season, is our eye work and trying to make the right reads and trying to work on following the ball a little bit more, and not so much like our hand position and the quality of our movement. And that's an area we need to improve a lot on. We're noticing during our play, we're not pressing enough with our hands, sealing the net and getting over the net. It's probably our weakest skill right now, but just something that we're working on and trying to improve on. So just moving on as we go into the next activity here. So now we're going to add in the middle attack. So there's going to be a middle option. What we want to do is get our blockers and our defenders to identify where that middle is going. Sometimes we'll call it out to communicate that as well. And we're going to make our read from there. So now this just gets harder because it's in system. So it's going to be harder for our blockers, especially our middles, to make their reads. Okay, so the middle is coming here behind the setter, 61. What we would like is this blocker to, realize that, and not really a big pipe option coming right now. So really focus on this attacker It could probably be a little bit further out based on the 61 coming. You'll see here, okay, this position 4 blocker, this is what we want to see from our outside blockers. Okay, being very active, being very involved. Mary's a really fast athlete, okay, moving really quickly along the net, which is great. So she identifies, there's no right side option right now is out. So the ball, she's pointing, she's talking to her defenders. The ball is probably going to go to left side and then comes and triple blocks out here. Okay, so decent block. Our strategy is to try and take away line on high ball attacks. So inside hand on the ball so that we seal the line. So pretty good. We probably want our middle a little bit tighter here. And we want to be maybe a little bit more pressed on our block, but we're doing the right things in terms of making decisions. Okay, so pretty good job watching the setter. Good reaction. So here we run a 61 overload. Blockers do a pretty good job getting there. Our libero is maybe a little bit late in her movement. Maybe not stopped on contact and a little bit late reacting to that tip. So in general, like I mentioned, there's another situation where a little bit late on picking up that tip. We want our libero on 5 to get that ball. But our main goal, our main purpose of this this activity and this practice was our eye work on blocking and defense, but in particular blocking. And as I'm watching this and evaluating, I'm fairly happy with what I'm seeing. Middles aren't guessing. We're doing a good job watching the right things. The one area I think we can improve on is like I mentioned, watching the set a little bit longer on our outside blockers. Okay, I think here a pretty good job adjusting, stopped on contact into the seam. And then the last part of this that we did was same thing. Okay, we have all options, attack options. We're running middle, and we're including a pipe into this, and we have our setters in the front row. So far we've been working mainly with our setters in the back row, but on this day, but we know our setters need to block as well and get their experience and their reads in. And then we also want to work on running our step plays behind our setter and trying to get a pipe attack going. That's one of our main focuses this year, is trying to run a bit of a faster pipe. It's still got a long way to go, but especially when we're running step. So here, okay, we're watching, doing a pretty good job. Our cues for our outside hitters are on a step play is to kind of go at the same speed as the middle. So Mary's just a little bit late on this. Does a good job reacting after the set. As a result, the line is open, but we get actually a good dig opportunity there. Not the greatest dig, but a good opportunity. A good read there. We play with a fast offense, pretty fast. I think, judging by this set, I think it's good speed. Could be maybe a little bit quicker, but as a result, you'll see we're making a good decision in the middle, but it's still hard to close. It's still hard to defend the ball with the speed of the set. Good job there of our blockers. Okay, reacting to this ball that's set in the pipe. Okay, they're watching. Our position 2 blocker though, what we'd want to see here is maybe a shuffle step in to either block, okay, or probably could have got this tip, right? We're trying to block pipe if we can with 2 or 3 blockers at the net. But our rule of thumb is if we're not blocking a pipe at the net, we need to take a step off and be ready for a tip. So we don't do either here, and it's an easy score. So here, our position 4 blocker, and nothing's coming behind the setter. Could probably be a little bit more in front of this middle attack. And that may help our middle release a little bit quicker there. A pretty good job of going out with that step. Okay, so that's pretty much what we did today. And we went through those different blocking sequences. We played out the rallies, and then we actually finished practice with playing a normal set of volleyball, the 15. Just trying to get some, there wasn't a lot of, as you can see, serving in this practice or passing opportunities. So I like to usually most days include some serving and some passing in our practice. And we get lots of good opportunities to do that when we play 6-on-6 volleyball. That's something we're trying to do a little bit more this year. Instead of doing a 2 or 3 ball drill, is to play volleyball. We watch video, we stat it, and we get some real numbers because we're playing. We still get feedback as coaches. We still have a focus. Our setters might have a focus on what kind of offense we're running, but we're just playing more, and we're getting a lot out of that as well. Any more questions, kind of based on the video and what you saw there, what we were working on?
Yeah, we had a few come in during the video. Can you talk a little bit about the technology? How many iPads do the players look at, or is it a large screen that they see?
We usually use 1 or 2 iPads in our practice that we use a video delay with. during practice. We use it probably more frequently in our individual practices. In the mornings, we run groups of 3 to 4 athletes, and we do a little bit more technical work. So we'll use the video delay more and the iPads in that training. We haven't been using yet, but like sometimes we'll bring out a projector. So we'll hook up our video delay to a screen kind of right beside the court. So it's a little bit bigger, and then the athletes could, after a play, see about a 8-second delay and kind of see what they're doing as blockers as well. Yeah, it's something we've done, just haven't done it yet this year, but it's really good. That's a good tool to use, especially just kind of like after the play, if there's an attack and it went in a seam or by you, like the defense could kind of look to see what they did and get some feedback from that video delay too.
That's great. And then the next question was, are you relying on film or watching the player's eyes for their eye work sequencing?
A little bit of both. So it really depends. Like we said yesterday, we had the iPad and we did a number of sequences, and then we used the film for them to get to watch themselves and have a coach kind of watch with them and give them feedback. Often what I'll do is watch their eyes during the drill too. So take my eyes off the ball essentially and just watch the blockers, especially in middle, and just pick up what the middle is doing, what they're watching, give them some direct feedback. We try and do a combination of both. I think a lot about using video, and I really like using video in training and for the athletes to get feedback, but I'm also trying not to overuse it, if that makes sense, because I also feel like in a game, we often, as athletes, we don't get that immediate video feedback in games. We can watch video after games, or if we're middle, sometimes off the court or whatever it might be. But yeah, so we have to kind of learn to make adjustments too without video feedback as well. So I try and consider that in some of our practices too, not overusing the video.
Okay. And then there was a question about blocking responsibility. What is your opinion on pin blockers leaning towards their blocking responsibility, then making a read to help with the middle or tip defense versus staying neutral and then making a read to helping middle or tip defense?
Yeah, good question. I would say like watching our replay there, I think we're loading a little bit too much at times, where we want to load on our outside leg a little bit, but if that middle is coming in our zone, we don't want to be loaded too much. And sometimes you could see in the video that our players are really turning their hips on that load pretty early, which makes it hard to adjust to middle or if there's a pipe set. So I think we're doing that a little bit too much in watching our video, but we want to load a little bit, even if the middle is in our zone, and then we could still react. It's kind of when we train our outside blockers to block middle, it's usually again where we're not like committing, or we're not like we're not fronting, but we're trying to like get our hands in there and over the net as soon as possible and taking away some court. So for example, on a 31, if our right side blocker is helping, they're just taking away like a little bit of a sharper shot to position 1 with their hands over the net slightly, but they're not taking away that gap necessarily. They're not, going to be up there really big and strong on that block, unless, like I said, it's part of our game plan. Same thing, left side's helping on the 51. They're not going to be like really committing big. So we can do that with a slight load to our outside leg still. And we kind of want to load on that outside leg so we can drive off of it and in our dynamic, like make our blocking move very dynamic, opening up our hips to the sideline. our shoulders to the sidelines and making a really big move. And if we're loaded on that outside leg, we can also do a shuffle step back to try and help on the pipe attack. So that's our blocking motion to get back towards the pipe and towards our middle blocker, is to push off that outside leg, one shuffle step back, and try and block on the pipe. So it's a good point. I think in watching some of our video, we're a little bit too loaded sometimes, to help on the middle if the middle's in our zone. But then it's okay once we recognize there's no middle and we need to get out on our primary attacker, and we can get really loaded there and get ready to make a big move.
Awesome. And then our next question, if you have a healthy roster of 18 players, do they all get reps? And what is the breakdown of each position that you have?
Yeah, so 18 is a pretty big number, I would say. So far in my experience coaching at the U Sport level, I think ideally, I think a number of 16 would probably be a good number. We're a little bit inflated this year, and I think that's a little bit related to the pandemic. But definitely not lower than 16. We've been in situations where we've had 2 or 3 injuries, and then our numbers get pretty low and pretty thin at certain positions. 2 years ago, we started the year with 6 pin hitters, and we ended it with 4, which was hard to train and hard to really develop in certain ways. And we didn't have a lot of depth to make changes either. So 18 is a little bit high. I find some of our training we have 1 court for, and sometimes we train in a gym where we could set up 2 or 3 courts. So we're able to, I think, train and get enough reps in for everyone. If we're running some 6-on-6, we make rotations, we can make changes. If we have 2 liberos and 4 or 5 middles, we can kind of rotate everyone through and still get enough volume in our training. So yeah, I think it's a bit high, but I know other U Sport programs right now have over 22, 23 on their rosters, which is quite a bit as well.
Okay, and then our last question, with the speed of the game increasing, have you made any adjustments on blockers' base posture or hand positioning or their first step technique?
I think for me, one thing I've done is 10 years ago, I had my blockers starting with their hands up high. And that's the way I was kind of trained when I played the game back in the Stone Ages. And that's the way I coached for a number of years. And just by watching the game, watching players and seeing different techniques, right now we start with our hands pretty low, like around our waist, or what we call kind of keyboard hands. And I think it helps us move. And I've actually watched, and there's not a big time difference either when we're blocking middle, from getting our hands over the net from a position around our waist to a higher position. And definitely people would debate me on that, but I've seen some really good middle blockers make a pretty quick move over the net to block with a lower hand position. So I think having our hands a bit lower to be able to move faster is important. Loading, reading well, being disciplined, meaning we're not kind of moving when the setter is setting the ball as blockers. We can make moves before the ball's set, but then we got to react quickly after the ball's set. So being disciplined with our block is pretty important too.
Great. So yeah, I think that's it for questions. So thank you very much for that presentation on reading. It was very helpful. I'm sure the coaches are very excited to be bringing some of this back to their gym, especially after not being able to practice for a very long time. So hopefully they will find this information useful. Thank you, coaches, for joining us tonight. Our next coach development webinar will be on Wednesday, October 20th, which is 2 weeks from today. It's also at 8 p.m. and that will be Dan Lewis, and he's going to be talking about establishing an effective daily training environment. So we hope to see you there.
Thanks. Just want to say a couple more things, Kelvin. I'm assuming most of you are club coaches, maybe high school coaches, and just want to say thanks for all you do. I was a club coach back in Manitoba, where I'm from, for 15 straight years in a row, and it's you do really good things for our young volleyball players in this province, in our country. So thank you for all the work you do. And I had a few more slides in my presentation, but mainly just to wrap it up. I also like doing a lot of warm-up games for a team to like help work on reading abilities and watching what's happening on the other side of the net. So like some short court games always involve the net, over the net, like 1-on-1, 2-on-2, one contact, two contact, three contacts. Sometimes I vary what kind of contact that could be. So if the last contact was a forearm pass, the next one has to be a set, and some things like that, so that they're watching and thinking. 2-on-2 games, again, no jumping, two contacts, one contact, like just vary contacts, court size, and play like some warm-up games like that. Really helps with just general reading abilities. And whatever you do with your practices, like I don't really have a drill bank. I save all my practice plans, but with intentional training, like really figure out what you want to work on and how's the best way to achieve that. And kind of set up your drills based on that, and try and make it as game-like and realistic as possible. You saw from our drills that we were kind of creating a bit of an artificial situation off the first ball. But then from there it was kind of playing volleyball and realistic, with trying to block an attacker versus, blocking a coach on a box. We do some of that too, and we try and work on our motor patterns, but the more we can do stuff that's based on the way it happens in a game, you might not get as much reps, but you'll get more meaningful reps, and something that could really help you get better through that type of training. So I encourage you to try and make things game-like, involve the net and everything. We do a lot of serving and passing in volleyball. It's a big part of our game. So try and include those skills in your training as much as possible too.
Thanks, Ryan. If coaches have any questions, is there any way they can reach out to you, contact you via email?
Yeah, for sure. If you have any questions about what I talked about today or anything in general, I'll just put my email in the chat right now. It's also on the website as well, and just reach out to me. And definitely, I love to talk volleyball and share information, but I also like to hear from others, because as I mentioned, I've changed the way I've coached technically, tactically so much in the last 5, 6 years, 10, 12 years, even, like just learning more and learning from others. 2 years ago in Italy for the 2019 FISU games, I really saw a trend out there where teams were playing with a lot of speed out of system. So libero setting, middle setting, outside hitter setting, they were playing flatter sets, really aggressive. And it's something that, changed the way we do things. And we're trying to play a little bit more faster out of system, not just from our setters now as a result. And just, it's such a harder ball to block when it's a flatter set. It's so hard to predict where it's going to come down, and hitters are going to cut it off. So, yeah, the game changes, and I like to learn from others, so would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Ryan. So with that, we'll wrap it up for tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.